All right, we're recording. So I finally got the shot set up. It's a little warm out here. It's a nice breeze and I'm under the tree. But I finally got the shot set up. I'm dealing with some dappled light here, so bear with me. Can't really find a perfect spot for doing this. Over there is a little bit too bright. All right, so what I'm doing, the purpose of all this, I want to review my swim jig. Talked a lot about my jigs, that I make my own jigs. If you watch my tournament video, jigs played a huge role in my win. I'll link that video below if you're new to the channel, if you haven't gone back and seen it. But the reason I won that tournament was no doubt because of jigs. Swim jig, flipping jig, caught fish on a chatterbait, but they weren't the size of fish that I was getting on the jigs, okay? So let's go through that real quick and maybe help you guys buy jigs. Specifically, this video is just swim jigs, okay? So I'm gonna try to use a couple different camera sources here. So I've got 3 jigs here, 3 totally different jigs. All right, so we got this one. See that? We got that one. Nice, pretty head, good attention to detail. We got this one. Super pretty head, crazy attention to detail, absolutely gorgeous. Why did I buy this? Because it caught me, all right? Because of the colors and all of that good stuff, okay? And then we've got mine that I assembled. And I'll put the stills up so you can see. These 2 jigs have one fatal flaw that they both share, okay, in common. And check that out. I hope that's in focus. You see that really narrow fish-shaped profile? You don't want a swim jig that does that, okay? And this one, I just cut off my rod so there's some line on it. Look at the profile on that one. You see that nice little flat bottom there, okay? Now, if you're fishing somewhere, you're out in open water, you don't have to deal with trees or logs or pipes, or in my case, sunken boats and sunken barges and cypress knees and jagged metal in the water, you know, that sort of stuff. Go ahead, knock yourself out all day. I mean, but if that's the case, what's the point in even having a weed guard on you? Same thing with this one, knock yourself out. Most bass fishermen, myself included, probably most of you guys, are gonna fish somewhere where there's cover. Lily pad stems, wood. If you're on the James River by me, you got barges, you got jagged metal, you got pipes, gravel that gets dumped in the water, trees that get flushed down through, you know, storms and floods and hurricanes and stuff that we have to deal with here. This head design is going to get you hung. This is going to get you hung versus this. When these contact something, with my rod here, when this hits that flat part, it's gonna go up and over, okay? This one, I have thrown these and thrown these and thrown these, and I'm gonna tell you, when this hits something, it lays over. This jig is gonna lay over. When it hits that cover, it's gonna do this, okay? If you look at this one, it's got a thin baitfish profile head too, like a spinnerbait, I guess. When it hits, it's gonna roll. There's nothing flat there, okay? There's a keel. There's actually an edge. So when that edge hits, that bait's gonna go one way or the other, okay? So reason number 1 that I'm getting rid of these jigs. Reason number 2 that I'm getting rid of these jigs, okay? They all have a fluorocarbon weed guard, okay? These are not the thick black weed guards that you find on a flipping jig, okay? You see that? This little clear fluorocarbon, okay? Same thing on these. The amount of force needed. Now, not only are these jigs gonna roll over, okay, but the amount of force needed to push these down is just too soft. This one is better than this one. There's not enough resistance here. Like, I could do that. This weed guard actually moves when I blow on it, okay? That's not gonna protect you from anything. Like, it is no resistance there at all. Like nothing. I'm barely touching that, and I'm catching the hook point every single time. This weed guard has a lot more to it, yet it's not too much, because you don't want a swim jig that's got a stiff weed guard like a flipping jig. You're not dunking it in a beaver pile. You're not pitching it up underneath the cypress, underneath that laydown in the back, needing it to fall through it and then get the fish back out, okay? You're swimming it. So it's got enough weed guard. I never, ever, ever hang these, ever, okay? You can see in the still images how dirty this jig is. I've had this for so long. You know what this is? This is the same jig head that I used in the TKAA event. Same jig head from the tournament. I just changed the skirt and the bait color. This is the same jig, okay? This is the same jig head that I was throwing last season. I still have it. Hookup ratio, you can see from the video, the hookup ratio is phenomenal. It comes through cover. I was fishing standing timber and grass, laydowns and stumps. And you can see it was coming through all of it. And I was slow rolling that jig along the bottom. I wanted it to look like a super easy to get bluegill. And I was devastating with it. It did it, and it didn't get hung, and it came through, and it worked, and it stuck the fish. Okay? This one looks like it's got a great hook on it. Not as stout as this, but again, you don't want a super stout hook. This is not flipping. This one, God, that's a beautiful skirt, right? I'm actually gonna leave the skirt on it, and there is a fisherman in my life who accepts charity. So Jaden, this jig is on his way to you. It's free, so don't fuss, Jaden. And I will link below everything as far as the head, skirts. I encourage you to go find your own skirt. Find a skirt that you like. You're building a bait, you need confidence in it. The way you build confidence is you pick the colors out. You need to pick a color that's gonna work for you. I would recommend though, if you're throwing a swim jig and you're looking for a big bite, which is what I was doing, you want to put off that big pressure wave. You want that jig to come through the water and displace water. You want the fish to know it's there. Go get Lake Fork Trophy Lures, Lake Fork Trophy Tackle. They've got a swim bait. It's got a sectioned body. Matter of fact, I'll throw a still up of it. I didn't bring any out here with me, and I will link them. But that bait is big and it's thick, and it's a big body bait that moves with very little resistance. So behind this skirt, that big bait flares it out, pushes it out. That bait's about that long. It's gonna put off a pressure wave. You got the tail thumping, you got the skirt flaring, you got that secondary action. So I built it to be a big fish bait. And I even put those on my chatterbaits too also. Okay. Last thing I want to go over, my rod. This is kind of funny, because if you watch my channel, and again, I appreciate you if you're a subscriber. If you're new to the channel, please consider going and subscribing. Then you know I use a lot of high-end rods, and I'm a Shimano nut. I'm a Shimano freak. Like, I'm obsessed. I can't use something if it ain't Shimano. But real quick, this is an older Sitka. This is a Sitka 200E. It's a 4-bearing model, okay? The reel is solid. It casts great. It cranks great. It's got the perfect retrieve, which is about a 6.2-to-1. It's not a 7. It's not super fast. Again, I slow roll a lot of my spinner baits. I slow roll my chatterbaits. I slow roll swim jigs, especially a swim jig. I'm rarely ever burning it, so I don't want that super fast gear ratio, okay? I will link a few of them, few suggestions if you're looking for a spinnerbait, jig reel, something like what I would use. Here's the kicker. Look at this rod. Okay, I got this rod from Walmart. This is a Wright & McGill Insight Pro Advantage Brent Chapman rod. I've got a rod that I literally paid 40 bucks for, and I love having it on the deck beside rods that actually cost me $300. Okay, so why did I like this rod? So, sorry, it's hot out here. I've had a lot of trouble with bass coming up and shaking and throwing the spinnerbaits. For years, I've been going and buying rod after rod, trying to find an action that does what I needed. This $40 rod did that. I mean, and then some. I'm gonna step back. I want you to see this. Here's the rod. Look how I loaded up. Can you see that? See that? Look how it loads. Okay? And that's it. Now, if I'm a fish and I'm up tail walking, I've got tip. Okay, that's going to give and go with that fish. It's not a super stiff medium heavy. A lot of guys just go with a 7-foot medium heavy, like that you would throw a jig on, and they throw spinnerbaits on it. That's not okay. Okay, you're going to set the hook. You're going to overpower it. You're going to rip that hole. That hole's going to be bigger in the side of the fish's mouth. And then when they come up tail walking, that rod's got so much backbone. It's just pulling. There's no give in the system. Something has to go. You've already made a wallowed out hole in their mouth, and they're just wallowing that hole out even more. Spinnerbaits and jigs have a lot of leverage because of all that weight in one area swinging. He's going to throw it. Look at it. I mean, it's quick to backbone. It gets the hook home. I'm throwing 17, 20-pound test, 3/8 ounce swim jigs, half-ounce spinnerbaits, half-ounce chatterbaits, and I'm having no trouble. It is super light. It's wicked light. It's very sensitive. Matter of fact, there's one shot in that video. I actually felt the bass come up behind it and flare. I felt the bass try to suck, because as I'm pulling the bait in, I felt the bait speed up. I knew instantly what it was. The water rushed across the bait. The bass missed it. So if you look back, I go to set and I stop. That was a moment the bait felt like it sped up, but I didn't change my speed, and I knew that a fish had come up behind it and tried to suck it in. The water around it rushed and it missed. And sure enough, I kept going what I was doing, and then the fish loaded up on it because I was right, the fish was behind it. I felt that with a $49 rod. Hey, diamond in the rough, guys. I hope that helped. Comment below, questions below. I respond to all my comments. I respond to all my questions. If you want me to specifically talk about a certain lure, or if you have something you want to discuss, it can be part of the blog, or if you want me to expand further on this video. And I kind of went, I'm a little long with it, so I might have to go to 2 videos. Let me know. Shoot me a note. Drop a note in the comments. DM me on Instagram. However you want to get to me. I check everything as much as I can, and I do respond to everything. So I'm out.